How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Flame and we are back with another FPL video, and today we're going to be looking at some price predictions for players that are coming into the league this season or have a potential to sign for a Premier League team and will be playing for that club this season. If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're going to be having a lot more FPL content as the season goes on. We're going to be having a mini league as well, and we're going to be just doing a lot more videos as the season gets closer and closer. And once the site is updated, we're definitely going to be tinkering around with our teams and that sort of stuff. We'll be doing the game week previews, the live streams, all that sort of stuff will be back. And I think once the site is up and running, we're going to be going for more of like kind of a live stream of me kind of tinkering with the team for the first time, which will be quite interesting. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So we have 5 players today that I kind of want to talk about and kind of discuss and show like what price they may be coming in at going into this FPL season. The first one we have up on our screen is Timo Werner here. This is the announcement that he has signed and reached a deal. Here's his video. This was 2 months ago, month and a half ago, where it shows his personal terms and all that sort of stuff, and he does a message to the Chelsea fans. And Timo Werner is obviously a fantastic asset. He was linked originally to the likes of Liverpool, and I think that he would provide any amount of just, you know, kind of success because of how good he actually is. He's you know, great with both feet, super pacey, can play anywhere across the front four in a 4-2-3-1, so he can play in the cam role, he can play out wide left, out wide right, through the middle in a strike force two, like in a pairing of two, and I think he could be quite valuable for Chelsea in that regard. I think they got him for 50 million or thereabouts. It was a similar-ish price to I'm trying to think who was it Morata that they paid for 50 million? I can't remember. I might be wrong on that, but I think it was a very, very reasonable price for someone of his quality, and he's gone straight to the team, so he's not going to be playing in Leipzig's Champions League game that they have to play in the coming weeks. And that's obviously a detriment to them, but also a boost for Chelsea because they know he's going to be in training with their teammates, you know, playing with them and getting used to their system and how Lampard kind of wants to play him. I think he's going to be an excellent asset next season. He will be a forward going into the next season 100%, and I think his price point will probably be around 9.5 million because that's typically how they've kind of priced Chelsea forwards in the past. They haven't gone like the 10.5, 11 million mark. That might be an overshot, but I think around 9.5 million will probably be around right. I'm going to put my bets on 9.5 because I think that another potential Chelsea player could be a similar price in the midfield slot. And so I think that Werner, I mean, they bought him to start every game, so I think that he is going to be somebody who is just super dynamic, is going to be involved in pretty much all types of Chelsea plays. He might even be taking penalties for them next season, who knows, and it could be something that, you know, he's pretty much essential depending on Chelsea's fixtures as well. However, we still have to kind of think about that there could be a break as well for the Champions League and Europa League teams. So they basically said that you need adequate amount of rest for these teams. So if Chelsea were to somehow get past Bayern, even though they are 3-0 down, they may see that their first week of fixtures is delayed until game week 2 or game week 3 for FPL people. And that could basically, you know, obviously dissuade us from having, you know, the likes of Werner or like Manchester United, Wolves, Man City, these sorts of teams that are still in European competitions could be, you know, pushed back in people's teams, and basically we have to wild card into them after the fact. So we'll have to kind of see how that plays out. On to the next signing. He's also a Chelsea man now, Hakim Ziyech. I believe they got him for 35 million, which is a fantastic deal. He's very good with both feet, has an amazing left foot, typically plays off the right hand side and likes to get involved. He's very good at taking set pieces as well, from what I know. And this season he produced 8 goals and 21 assists in 32 matches across all competitions. So more of an assist man, which makes me want to think that he's going to be playing in a much more, you know, kind of like a Kevin De Bruyne type role. He'll get his goals, but he will definitely get way more assists than he will goals, which means that he's probably going to be at a lower price point. I'm thinking around 8 to 8.5 million. Whereas the likes of Pulisic will probably be somewhere in that bracket. Maybe Pulisic will be at 9 million just because he's already there and done it in the Premier League, where Ziyech hasn't yet. So I think that could be quite interesting for Ziyech in terms of price point. I think he's going to be starting as well, because it looks like Willian's off to Arsenal, which is another thing that they have to kind of pay attention to. Also, with the likes of Pedro leaving, I believe he's secured his deal to Roma. So then you're kind of looking at players that can play out wide, and it's few and far between. You have Werner, who can play out wide, who they've just signed. Ziyech, who can play out wide, if they've just signed. But if Willian and Pedro leave, then you only have Pulisic and Mason Mount, who's more of a number 10 anyway, which they have to basically offer in the wide positions. Chelsea like to play a 4-3-3. They also like to play a 4-2-3-1. And you need two wide men pretty much at all times to play those formations. And Ziyech and Werner can help that out with Pulisic being fit. They can obviously rotate across the front. And Ziyech can play in the number 10. He can also play in a midfield 3 as like an advanced 8 as well. So quite an important signing, I think, for Chelsea. And he's only, I think he's just gone 27. So in the prime of his career, has obviously done really well for Ajax. So I think he could be quite a good FPL asset in that regard, because I think he's just going to be a starter as well. Chelsea seem to be buying players which they're just going to straight up start. So we shall see. Moving on to the next one. Pay what we want, or Havertz stays another year. Chelsea have been warned over the Bayern Leverkusen forward Kai Havertz. He's 21 years old, plays for Bayern Leverkusen currently. He's still in Europa League. And I think he has a valuation of around, I think it's anywhere from 70 to 90 million euros. And if Chelsea don't pay it, then he's going to stay there. But he could be someone who is a similar price point to Timo Werner at 9.5 million. I think he'll come in, because that'll probably be, you know, with his amount of talent and what he's shown. They won't price him as low as the likes of Fernandes, because Fernandes came in at 8 million. He came in the middle of the season, and he came from arguably worse league in a sense. And Kai Havertz is shown like that he's just fantastic. If you ever watched him play, he's quite brilliant. I haven't had the fortune to watch him as much as a lot of other people have, and they've shown that he's done great things. He's on penalties, so he could also be Chelsea's penalty taker as well. And I think that he, you know, is just quite dynamic. Again, another player that can play pretty much anywhere across the front four. He can play as a false 9, as a striker. He can play out wide if he wants to, can drift out to either side. Great on both feet, an excellent finisher. It's just overall a very good signing. It'd be very, very, very hard not to look at Kai Havertz if he does make his way over to Chelsea and Stamford Bridge. And I think that's a scary proposition for what they could be going into next season. If Pulisic is fit, you're looking at a front four of Timo Werner through the middle, Kai Havertz at number 10, Pulisic out one side with Ziyech out the other side. And it's just absolutely crazy that they could potentially have somebody like that, just a completely different front line, as it were, with the likes of Havertz's genius in behind them, playing in, you know, these types of passes and, you know, these types of assists. And also Kai Havertz is from the German league, which Timo Werner is as well. And there's that type of connection there, as well as Antonio Rudiger, who's also German. There's that connection there as well. So it could be quite a good move for them overall. I think Kai Havertz, if I had to put my money on it, would be 9.5 million in the midfield role. Moving on to the one that for Manchester United fans, they want him in sooner rather than later, and that is Jadon Sancho. Now, I think he could come in at much heavier price than the likes of Havertz, just because he plays for Man United, who have done well, and they finished just above Chelsea in the top 4 race. Obviously, Chelsea still finishing inside the top 4, but the likes of Sancho, valuation 108 million pounds. United seem to be playing hardball with that. The personal terms have been agreed with the player, so Jadon Sancho wants to go to Manchester United. It's just a matter of how United is going to fund the specific transfer, whether there's been rumors that 70 million up front, and then there's, you know, 2 payments over the next couple of years after that. Maybe they want more up front, Dortmund do. I'm not too sure, but he is the type of player that would probably cause some crazy amount of havoc in the Premier League if we go based off of what he did in the Bundesliga. Very good with both feet, can again play across the entire front four. He can play in the 10. He can play out wide left. He can play out wide right, where he's typically put in Dortmund's side. Can play as a false nine as well. He's very good at picking up pockets of space and creating for himself. And his like, if you say what's Jadon Sancho's main attribute, it's his dribbling ability. His ability to just go past players with his pace is just insane. So that is the likes of, having imagine Rashford one side, Sancho the other side, Martial through the middle, and you still got Mason Greenwood ready to come on at any given moment. So United fans definitely want this to happen, because by buying Jadon Sancho, you effectively boost your bench, because you probably can't play Greenwood, Martial, Sancho, Rashford, Pogba, Bruno, kind of all in the same team. Well, like, if you play Greenwood, you have to sacrifice probably one of Pogba or Bruno to play a midfield two, and vice versa for the for if you play a midfield three, you would have to sacrifice probably one of the forwards. So I definitely think that that is a possibility. Also, I mean, you can even put Greenwood out wide right, you could put Sancho through the middle, you could put Rashford and Martial out wide left. There's a bunch of different things that you can do, and Sancho definitely enables that. In terms of his price, I think he'll come in at around 10.5 million. It'll be less than whatever Fernandes is, because Fernandes has come in the league and shown how good he actually is. Sancho still needs to prove that. We do know his quality, and this is why I will put him higher than the likes of Kai Havertz, because he does score a lot more goals, and he gets a similar amount of assists as well. Actually, I'm not sure if he scored more goals than Havertz. He scored more goals than Ziyech, because Ziyech only scored 8, and I think Sancho scored 20 this season. So we'll have to kind of see how that develops. But I think 10.5 million is probably where he's going to go, mainly because I guess it's like a price tax. Even in FPL, they have it for Manchester United players, and a lot of people are going to get him because he's a new signing, and that just makes sense. And if you've seen what he's done in the Bundesliga, it could be quite exciting for the Premier League and Manchester United fans. And then lastly, this is obviously this is for pretty much any of the new teams. What are their players going to come in at? So I'm particularly looking at Patrick Bamford here. He's the Leeds leading striker. And you have a bunch of different other players that are coming into the league in a similar position. So Mitrovic is another one who plays for Fulham and plays a similar role. But I just want to kind of focus on just a promoted team's number 9, basically their forward. So what can we potentially look to see in terms of price point, what they're going to be at? But you can't price them too high. So like, I think Danny Ings and Raul Jimenez and those sorts of players, they're going to be at around 8 to 8.5 million. The 7.5 to 8 million players, or in that bracket, is probably going to be maybe the likes of Antonio, maybe Giroud again, possibly, because he's, you're bringing in Werner, he's probably going to be dropped to the bench. They may drop this price or keep it somewhat similar. And then you just kind of have to look at where that leaves the rest of the pack. So you're looking at the likes of Patrick Bamford, these promoted teams or teams that are down the bottom. Brighton was somewhat down the bottom, and Neo Mope, he's probably going to be around the 6 million mark. And I think that, the newly promoted teams will be somewhere around that. I have them coming in at 6.5 million. So you'll probably see Bamford and Mitrovic, players like that coming in that play the number 9 role. We're going to be positioned as a forward, and they're going to be 6.5 million there. That's just kind of my take on it. Are they going to be good value at that? We'll have to see. I think Bielsa's Leeds is very interesting. I don't think Fulham showed that much more than kind of how Brentford played in the final that they played against each other. It was quite cagey. Fulham could go straight back down. Same with West Brom. I think Leeds is probably the most promising, because they have the most dynamics in terms of how they play. And I think that with their forwards is kind of how how they work, kind of how they get the goals. And I think that if you get the price point right for these types of players, these are going to be the enablers that we're looking for at the beginning of the season. So you're going to looking for mispositioned potentially defenders, like we had Lundstrom last season, cheaper forwards. So if they put Mitrovic at 6.5, just because he's been in the Premier League before, and they put Bamford at 6 million, and they have equal fixtures, you're going to probably pick Patrick Bamford over Mitrovic just because he's cheaper. And at the beginning of the season, you have the likes of less basic funds, as it were. You only have 100 million to start the season, as has been tradition in the FPL, and you're just going to be looking for those enablers. And I think if he comes in at 6 million, he's definitely going to be one of your forwards, or you're going to be looking to that, especially if they have good fixtures to start the season. So yeah, those are all the players that I have today on the list here for you. Just kind of an interesting kind of kind of talk about it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below as to what players you're kind of intrigued to see come into the Premier League this season, and we can have a discussion in the comments and that sort of stuff. And we're also going to be talking about some things in later videos about potential rule changes that could change in the Premier League, as well as some kind of just overall thoughts on that regard. That'll be in the next video for you. So that's going to do it for today's video. So make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Like I said, a lot of content coming, thick and fast as the season gets closer and closer to its starting point. There are rumors that you'll be able to tinker with your teams and start putting your team in place after the Champions League, which is on the 22nd, I believe. But that's just rumors there. That makes the most sense. It's around 2 to 3 weeks before the season starts, which would give us enough time to kind of work around with our teams as the season does start on September 12th. And by then we will know which fixtures will be potentially pushed back because of how much of a break that the teams need if they go far into European competitions. Also, make sure to turn those notification bells on so that you can get the videos as soon as they are readily available. And lastly, make sure to follow us on the different platforms. PilotFlame226 on Twitter and Twitch. Twitter's where we post all of our video content, as well as when we go live on Twitch, which we'll be doing some poker and gaming, and we'll be getting back to the FPL kind of live streams, especially when when we're able to tinker with our teams for the first time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to schedule a time to do a live stream for that, and I'll kind of I'll have the blank page in front of me, and I'll be putting players in and see how my kind of thought process goes into my just first kind of draft, and then we'll be making videos from there based on what players have changed positions and that sort of stuff. So that's going to do it. Hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next one, take care.